This is the Vessels Podcast brought to you by Ask Us Why Christian Apparel. We live in a day and age where every opinion, ideology, and philosophy is at the touch of a button. But actual truth only found in God by revelation of His Word, is what can bring us true life and fulfillment that we were created for. And this podcast exists to help you navigate those day-to-day challenges that we face with a biblical and youthful perspective that brings you guidance and clarity in a world of confusion and distraction that ultimately should bring you closer to Jesus. We hope you love this podcast. And with that being said, let's get to it. All right, guys, good morning. Welcome back to the podcast, Live in the Lion's Den. I'm with my good friends, Christian.
Hey, guys.
I was fully expecting like alive and well, and that was great. Thank you. We got Connor and we got Allie. How we feeling, guys?
All right, we're here today.
9 days till we get married.
Oh my gosh, I'm.
Are you getting butterflies, Christian?
Oh, whoa. I love love. Wow.
What's your guys' current state of emotion?
Oh, God.
Are you guys freaking out because you still have things to get done?
They're not like, yeah. They're not like that important, though. They're like first dance, making sure we got it, running through ceremony. Because I made the whole timeline, so I just want to make sure he's cool with that.
You got to talk closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry, guys.
That's
on me. That's pretty much it. Feeling pretty good.
Wow. Nice.
Just a little anxious.
Did you get a dress yet? Did you pick one out yet?
Yeah.
That's good.
My favorite question. They were like, do you have a dress? I'm like, oh, my God. I forgot.
Oh, no. Let me go look on Amazon real quick. There has to be wedding dresses on Amazon.
There is. They're ranging
Really?
from like $100 to like $30. I thought about getting one.
No way. Why? Just to see if it would work?
Yeah, that, and I was like, you know how funny it'd be if my wedding dress was $30?
That'd be crazy.
I'm all for it.
See, but I think the implication is when you look up wedding. Yeah, okay, so there are. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
there are
you.
some wedding dresses.
Yeah.
Ooh.
They're probably awful.
They do look
I'm not going to lie to
awful.
you. I did look up YouTube videos before I bought one because I was like, I wonder if they're good. They weren't good quality.
Yeah.
I did
There's
my research.
technically one that's got like over 1,000 reviews. It's 4 out of 5 stars. It's $135.
Your special wedding dress has been worn minimum by probably
That's actually not a bad lace dress.
5,000.
You probably saw this one on there.
Yeah, I did.
So interesting. Well, anyways, I'm glad you found a dress.
Thank you.
Connor, did you find your dress yet?
Found my dress.
He tried on his suit yesterday.
I asked him if he had a dress,
Oh, sorry.
not a suit.
Shh, that's a secret.
That's going to be a surprise.
Can't wait for the photos, you guys.
I'm wearing my dress under my suit.
We're both like wearing like the exact same dress. It's
His
like
pants are just like inflated because
it's like
of the
this
dress.
Spider-Man meme. We're just like both of us in dresses.
Yeah, where the two Spider-Man are pointing at each other.
Yeah.
They're like,
Three.
you.
The 3 Spider-Man.
The 3 Spider-Man. Yes.
Sorry.
Great. Well, speaking of Spider-Man, a great guy, what are some things we should look for in a guy?
They have to be a super
That was a really good intro. I'll actually give that one to you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I always wait for Allie's rating after my transition because she either goes like 1 out of 10 or she's like, not bad. That's okay. And I'm like, all right,
You're
thanks.
like, thanks so much. That was pretty good. I'll give it to you.
Seriously though, Allie, I think we're just going to ask you because
okay.
we're all guys. So
Number 1 has to be Tom Holland.
has to
Number
be
2.
Tom Holland.
Okay.
Um,
No, that's acceptable.
has to be above 5'4". I'm just kidding. Good qualities. Let's see. Loves the Lord. Let me take that back. Has a relationship with the Lord beyond just going to church on Sundays. I feel like that's a top one. Has a good relationship with his family. Is interested in having a relationship also with your family. Has a good friend group. Brunettes are personally my favorite.
Hair color. Look for hair color.
I love a good sense of humor. If you can't tell by Connor over here.
Very good.
Has to be able to laugh at himself. Slow to anger. I feel like you can't obviously find someone right off the bat who like isn't sometimes like angry at certain things, but definitely slow to anger. He's allowed to get angry, but slowly. Practicing patience, if not is patient. Sympathetic or empathetic to some degree. Has to have emotions. Can't just be like, I'm a guy, I don't cry. I don't buy that.
I don't do that though.
That's true.
Wait, so hold up. Backtrack there. Is that a thing then that you need to look for? Because you didn't
he
find it in your
does.
man's.
He does. Not with y'all, but he gets, let me tell you something. I've seen this man cry.
Can you imagine if like she turned him into a complete softie?
Oh,
So
he'll
like
get there.
in every situation,
Connor will
he's
get
just
there,
like
but it'll
this.
be when
He's
he's,
this
like,
close to tears.
Mid-40s.
Yeah.
He'll get more emotional. all the
Yeah.
time.
He's going to be like the pastor that's preaching.
It's just
and,
gonna
like,
get
it's
to a
like, I
day-
just get
It
there.
reverses.
It's just gonna get to a day where I'd say like get over it to Connor, and he's just gonna start crying. And I'm gonna be like, why? He's gonna be like, you can't say things like that. I'm sensitive.
Someone said once, they're like, Connor's like your project. I love it. And I was like, my project? I was like, my project. And I was
Who
so
said that?
Jake Graven. He said it in a sweet way because I was like he said I was being mature about something. He was like, I just love the way you just like love Connor. And I was like, thank you. And he was like, he's just like your project. I love it. And I was like, yep. I was like, is he?
And Jake's the teacher. He's gonna grade it at the end of the year.
It was really funny the way he said it.
That's pretty funny.
But those are some things I personally look for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Good community. That's a big one though.
Big community.
Yeah.
Connor, what do you look for in a man?
Oh man, I have lots of experience. What do I look for in a man? As a man, I think I'll echo some of the things you said. Like if we want to go off community, I think a lot of the stuff that there's obviously some things that are like red flags like that we've talked about before, and there's a lot of stuff that's like in between, I think, like the red flags and what to look for. And obviously there's no perfect man like when you meet him or like even their whole life, but there's some things that are obviously he needs grounds for improving. And one of the things I think that helps with the sanctification of either a man or a woman like in their walk with Christ is community around them. And so that's why I think we place so much emphasis on that, because I think those things get like stagnant. Like sanctification can be a lot slower if you don't have a godly man or woman around you to be there like when they see those things that need improvement and that aren't being improved. And so like for a man or a woman, but especially like a girl's looking for a godly man, like there should be major red flags around, like if that they don't have anybody around them keeping them accountable. And another thing that I heard, I think JP said it, like he says it can be really easy to like to like see all of these like friends around you or like people close to you who are in relationships and get really antsy and kind of like jump at the next possible opportunity like with a relationship in your own life. But he says like instead of jumping at those opportunities, like lengthen your patience. Don't like drop your priorities or drop your standards, but lengthen your patience. And I think that's huge when you're trying to find a suitable spouse like for the rest of your life. And also like weighing those standards, weighing those priorities that you have. I think a lot of times that like people don't do that. They just see, oh, I don't want to be alone anymore, or all of these other people in my life are being in relationships. Like, who wants to go on a date? Let's put it on Instagram. Let's put it on a poll, anything like that. Set me up with anybody because I'm tired of being by myself, which I don't think is a bad desire necessarily. Like you should desire in some way to be, with somebody. But yeah, there's a lot of things.
Something though I like that you said was like there is no perfect man, because I think sometimes, and there's no perfect woman either, but just like to remind girls too, like I've had several conversations with friends and they will be like, oh my God, I just don't understand why I don't have a boyfriend. Like, or a godly man like this, and just like be very quick to like list categories about the guy. And I'm like, okay, but like, have you checked yourself in those areas? Because sometimes I feel like women, if they don't have a secure relationship with the Lord, like that's what they seek in a guy, because they want them to lead. Or like if they're not financially stable, they seek a guy that is, so they can like piggyback off that, which isn't a healthy mindset. But just like remember, like, don't be so quick to point out like, I want this, and this. If one, you aren't preparing yourself to be that person for someone else, or two, like remember that you're not going to find someone. That's why I said like practicing patience, like practicing humility, because you're not going to find someone who is 100% patient with every circumstance that could ever come up and totally humble in every regard. So I feel like it's important to find someone practicing that and know they're not going to be perfect at it. And I've always told Connor, one of my favorite things about him is that he's not perfect, because then I don't have to be perfect. Like we're both allowed to just be human and like walk with each other, love each other, and work on ourselves. And it's just I don't know, that's just something I love. But
Perfectly imperfect.
aw.
What's the
Bitch,
song?
Imperfect.
What's the song where it's like, you're perfect just the way you are? Isn't that like a Bruno Mars song or something?
Ed
Like
Sheeran?
that?
When you smile. Oh.
Yeah, I think.
Not a thing
That I would change, because
What have I
you're
started?
amazing.
Oh no.
Are you talking about nobody's perfect? I gotta work it.
Nope,
again and
definitely not
again
that song.
Oh,
But thank you for that.
yeah.
Christian,
Everybody makes mistakes.
you got some food to feed into this topic?
You guys, I have 2 pages.
Yeah, we're going to town.
I'm not shocked.
So I could just pop off
Take the mic.
for like 5 minutes.
Go for it,
Let's go.
please.
So I'll try to go through it quickly. And keep in mind, nobody's going to be able to do all these things.
This is just
This
what
is-
Christian,
Except for
looks
Christian.
for in a man.
This is like, hey Carly, who is my sister,
Oh.
look for these things. We actually sat down last night and like brainstormed stuff together.
That's gonna make me cry.
So
It is going to make Connor cry too now.
We
Because-
cry at everything together, actually.
Ew.
What makes her cry makes me cry.
They're both just going to look at each other and their eyes are watering up. Stop it. No, please don't. If you cry, you know I'll cry too.
So I think JP has gone through 1 Corinthians 13 for like a list of things to look for in really anyone, for guy to girl or girl to guy. I also looked at 2 Peter 1, 3 through 11, and specifically 5 through 9, which I'll just read really quickly. For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness mutual affection, and to mutual affection love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. But whoever does not have them is nearsighted and blind, forgetting that they have been cleansed from their past sins. So obviously, like, those 5 through 7 shows how a person should be living if they were making every effort to live a godly life. And so we want to be looking for qualities that kind of align with each of those things. And so one of the, I think it was an ESV commentary, said that this list shows the desires and features of a transformed heart. It's not like a legalistic code of rules. Love, it starts with faith and ends in love, because love is the ultimate result of faith. And then another commentary, the Bible Knowledge Commentary, goes into things in a bit more detail. So it breaks down each word, which I'll do briefly. Faith is trust in Jesus as your Lord and Savior, the foundation of your life. Goodness is moral excellency, it's virtue. Knowledge is not necessarily from intellectual pursuits, but spiritual knowledge, which comes through the Holy Spirit and is focused on the person and word of God. Self-control is to having one's passions under control, whether that's like anger, lust, jealousy, whatever like passions that you can control. Perseverance is steadfast endurance under adversity. Godliness is man's obligation of reverence towards God. Brotherly kindness is a fervent, practical caring for others. It's concern for others' needs. And love is even a step further than that, which is desiring the highest good for others. The commentary, I believe, says, many Christians know the Lord in salvation, but they lack the quote-unquote fruit of the Spirit and are not advancing spiritually. So with all that being said, you need to look for the fruit of the person's lives. And that's a decent list to go off of. And then this is the list of things that me and my sister talked about.
That was just the preface.
Before you go into that, I think
Yeah.
something important you said is like looking for the fruit like in their lives. And I think something that we don't do very well as a culture is like taking the time to see that.
Mhm.
And I think that's huge. Like, I think one thing that, we were always told, like in youth group or whatever, is to like always hang out with, the person you're interested in, like in a group of friends before, to see how they interact, obviously, with other people. But also, like, I think it's really easy to like immediately, find somebody you're interested in and then like jump into a date like right away, like one-on-one. And then like in some ways you're like kind of stuck like in that at that point. And like it doesn't take you one date necessarily to find, all of the fruits in that person's life that you can like, make a decision on. Obviously it takes more time than that. And you might find like some good things, you might find some really bad things. That's good. But I think that's important, is to be like, okay, this isn't just like, okay, we had one good date, now I should date this person. Or we had, one, give me bad vibes or whatever. Like that doesn't mean necessarily that they're a bad person. So I think it just takes more time than we give a lot of the times to see that fruit.
Yeah, totally. And it goes both ways, right? Like to find the good things in a person and to uproot things that could be red flags or not sure about.
Yeah, you can't like sorry. You can't really find the fruit or be able to like see it clearly if all you ever do is just hang out with them in your room together. Like you have to be out in the open, going through experiencing life with other people and other events and that kind of stuff in order to kind of see some of those things out. And even more than that, the biggest thing is their friends, and even asking their friends or people that might know them and getting those kind of like good recommendations of like, hey, is this someone that, lives up to what they're saying? Because he's making a lot of claims and he says he does these things, but do you see him at church? Do you see him living this out? Or is he just kind of putting on one of those shows to make himself look really good right now? But time will only tell that, those were lies or empty words. So yeah, you definitely can't just only hang out in a room or just do one-on-one stuff. Like it's huge to interact in public, in other settings with like other friends and other people to kind of see how they are.
Yeah. All right. So list number 2, starting out, he should be, I mean, if this is like the highest standards that you could be looking for, right? Something that I would want for my sister. I'd want him to be a spiritual leader who talks about Jesus a lot. And something that she mentioned that comes from Matthew 12:34, and somewhere in Luke 2 is out of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if he's talking about Jesus a lot with his friends, then that's like what's in his heart. He should lead himself well. And this means that he has to have direction in life. Like he can't lead you to somewhere he doesn't know where he's going. So this means taking care of himself. So mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. He should have some sort of mission, purpose, and vision in his life. This also means having boundaries and self-discipline. A big aspect of this is just being self-aware. I think that, goodness gracious.
Might just want to drink some water. It's usually the best route to
Take
go.
a break here.
Taking a quick intermission. Yep, that'll do it.
Yep, that was good. I think a lot of guys don't have, and I don't know, a lot of guys, arbitrary, don't have that kind of leadership and that vision in their life. And I think that causes a lot of problems because they can be really complacent. And for girls, like, you can't expect a man without a vision to lead with clarity, which is something that we talk about a lot, is communicating with clarity and leading with clarity. You want a guy to lead, and you let him lead even when he doesn't have the authority within his own character and attitude towards life to do so. And I think that causes a lot of problems in relationships. Another thing is that you should be actively seeking God and the Holy Spirit, intimacy with God, abiding in Him. You should be prayerful. I think prayer is just an indication of our relationship with the Lord. So that's a huge thing there. Communicating directly, not beating around the bush. I think a cool thing to think about is someone who communicates transparently, not just honestly. Anyone can respond to a question with honesty, but it takes a certain type of person to communicate how they're feeling transparently without being prompted. Humility is huge, not being narcissistic, willing to receive criticism and judgment. I think that if you feel like you can't tell them directly and honestly how they fall short, I think it can be a red flag. Like you shouldn't feel like someone's going to get mad at you for exposing them to a sinful part of their nature. And I mean, I think it takes a lot of humility to have a posture of like desiring to be exposed for things in your life, but exposure is how God transforms and renews our hearts and our minds into his image. And it's painful, but it's necessary because sin doesn't stay hidden. And you might feel like it does for a long time, but it's eating you from the inside out. Another thing, which you guys already touched on, is having a strong community of friends who challenge him and are close to Jesus. And then something my sister really values too is holding a conversation well and being a good listener. I think if someone is like on the edge of their seat the whole time you're talking to them, trying to get a word out, trying to say what they have to say without digesting what you're saying and listening to that, I think it can be a sign of I guess, narcissism, like being very selfish with their thoughts. Like, yeah, it just takes a lot to have the humility to just listen. And then I think the last thing is Colossians 3:19. Husbands, love your wives. Do not be harsh with them. And with this, marriage is like one of the greatest examples of God that we live out and are an example of as Christians to others. It's like the closest, most real example we have and demonstrate to others in the world. So the person that you choose to marry and live with for the rest of your life is a person that you're demonstrating the example of Christ's love to others for your entire life. So choosing who that is in the beginning is really important, but then so much of that is on your own shoulders to love them selflessly.
That
And
was
that's
really
all I have to say.
Did you get all of that? Memorize it.
Yeah, anyone write that down?
That was a lot, but luckily you can rewind a podcast.
Luckily, you can play it back in half speed and do it over and over again and just write it down. Or you can just do this. Ready? There you go. For those watching the video, take a screenshot. Doesn't like Apple have a new update where you can like put your camera
What if
over
Christian
words?
just had his deepest, darkest secrets on that page, and
It secretly said the love of his life on there or something. It's his to-do list. It's like, ask this person out on a date. We're like, whoa.
Whoa, that'd be crazy.
I really liked though how you mentioned in there like having humility enough to like hear your like flaws and like what you need to change. And I feel like obviously it's circumstantial. Like I'm sure there are some things that some people would be like really offended by, like if it's attacking their character. But I feel like that is such a big thing that I feel like no one really looks at anymore, is like, how are they in the tough conversations?
Mm-hmm.
Have I ever had to have one yet? Because people are like, oh, we never fight. Like, I think Morgan Straley like posted like about like 1 year with Jesse or something. And she said, yeah, like we fought and we grew through that. Like, I love that she mentioned that because that's true and that's real and that's authentic because you're going to fight. If you look at someone, you're like, oh, we don't fight. We just argue. I'm like, oh, what? Okay. That's okay. Like people that just like almost don't want there to be bad times when it's like, no, if anything, you should allow for the bad times and work through them. Don't stay in them, work through them, get over them, move past. But I think that's really important because it shows a lot about a person. When you sit them down, you're like, hey, you seem to kind of struggle here. Kind of a jerk about this. Why is that? And then they just retaliate and they're mad and they're upset. I think it shows a lot about their heart posture. And you know what? Maybe they've been talked to about before and that's where it's coming from. But I just really like that you mentioned that, the moral of the story. That is 10 out of 10. Says a lot about someone. As a psychology major, can't even believe it. Fully agree. 20 out of 10.
Cool.
Tough conversations. Steward a lot of things.
Love it. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that we'll like look at a list and we'll name off a bunch of things that we're like, oh yeah, well, like he needs to be able to do this and be able to do that. And It'd be really nice if he's good at his finances and all these things. But then the one thing that like everyone just seems to be so willing to compromise on is like their relationship with the Lord. Like they'll be like, yeah, like he's great in all these ways, but he's working on his faith. Like he's getting there. And it's like, no, like he could say that about like finances. You could say about his friend group. You can say about every other area. But if he's like not rock solid with his relationship with Jesus, that is one area you don't want to compromise on, because that reflects everything else. Like ultimately, it's the epicenter of our behavior and our actions. And if we're really quick to kind of justify like, well, he's kind of involved with church and he goes to church on Sundays, but like he doesn't see anybody there. He doesn't like have community with anybody there. He just goes in, leaves, walks out, and then doesn't do anything else for the rest of the week, or doesn't have like a men's group that they're a part of, or doesn't have like anyone that he's under leadership of or mentorship of. And somehow you expect that he's like growing in, you know, his relationship. And now if you're a really young believer, that might be the case, you know, because you haven't like discovered those things. But if they're going to claim that they've been around the joint for a few years, like if you were in scripture, you would know how important community is. You know how important church is. You know how important it is to have like guys around them. Like for us specifically, just like guys around us to like hold us accountable and to help us grow and to have those kind of things. But if you find a guy that's really individualistic in the sense where he's like, I don't really need to go to church, or he's not the type as well, like to prioritize making sure you go to church, and not like a legalistic manner, but just in like a sense of like, what else are you doing on your Sunday morning? Like, no, let's go to church, and like prioritizing that kind of stuff. Like if he's not doing those things, I think that that's ultimately a way out or a reason to get out, because, it's just so important. Like it's hard. I don't know how to stress it enough, but like everything else you can compromise on or be patient about, and know that like things can take time to learn those things. But if they aren't like fully surrendered to Christ, like don't expect them to treat you the way that they are supposed to according to what scripture says, because they're not pursuing Jesus. They're pursuing whatever their interests are at the time, or whatever's in the world influencing them in different directions. And so my encouragement to any girl that's looking for a guy is like really, really analyze and look at his faith and see how important it is to him in his life. And it's not to say that you can find a guy that like is, you know, not really close and things could work out on the other end. It's not to say that like there's a perfect formula to follow that makes that happen, you know. There's obviously anomalies and things change and God works in great ways, but like ultimately, like when it's like a weird, I don't want to say shopping, but like when you're looking for someone to like partner with for life, like these are some of the things you seriously want to consider before you get into something like that. Because I think that the ultimate point we're making is that there's way more weight to this and to marriage than like we've given. And so if we add that weight and we really look at the relationship with Jesus, then it kind of falls in every other area, because it has to do with their pride. It has to do with their humility. It has to do with like how they serve each other. It has to do with the community and who they spend time with. It has to do with what they prioritize. What are their goals in life? What are they striving for? How do they handle their priorities and responsibilities? Like all those things, like when I'm closer to Christ, like I notice that those things just kind of fall in line more, or I know which things to discern better because of the Holy Spirit. But when I don't have those things, I'm a wild goose running around just getting distracted by whatever else is piquing my attention. And so it makes it really hard for me to be a leader. And I think that girls need to be looking for a leader more than anything else, because as we talked about in the last podcast, like God structured it in a way where man is supposed to lead the household and women are to submit to that authority of that man and husband in the relationship. And if he's not a good leader and he's not leading you closer to Christ, like, then where is he leading you towards? You know, like what direction is he bringing you in, and how is he going to help you grow closer to Christ if all he's focused on is himself or his own self-interest or whatever else that he has going on? It could be sports. It could be his friend group, but his friend group could also just be not good influence either. And it can go whatever way that way. But point is, look at their relationship with Jesus and give it time too, like we were saying, like to see the fruit, and if it's bearing that fruit, because they can make a lot of claims and say that they do a lot of those things, but like, are they doing those things? And that doesn't mean that they have to know all of scripture. It doesn't mean that they have to like understand all of their theology, but what it means is that like their heart posture towards Christ is one of humility and surrender. And you see that on a daily basis being played out. and that comes from, like you're talking about, like what comes from the heart, man speaketh. And so like just seeing how he talks to other people and like how he communicates. And another one that I would say, which doesn't ultimately define it, but I always like to throw this one in there, is like, what does his social media look like? Because I've met a lot of guys where you look at their social media and they just look like tool bags. Like 100% honesty. Like they're just pictures with them in their truck, or it's them like with a gun and like laying over a bear.
Hey.
And I'm just gonna start listing off. They're just like
in a Bass Pro Shops hat.
Remy, if you could turn around really quick.
Yeah, I'm turning around. Or they're like in a, like they're on the beach in a surfing board, just like, if they drive a Tacoma, a 98,
Stick shift.
Black.
You have a stick shift?
Mm-hmm.
Impressive.
I know.
So impressive. So impressive.
It's really
Wow.
easy. It's really easy.
Wow.
Says, I know.
No, but like seriously, like look at their social media. Do they ever talk about their faith on their platform? Do
And
they
I'm not
ever-
talking about Jeremiah 29:11 being in their bio. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that goes
Philippians
both ways.
4:13.
What?
Philippians 4:13.
Oh, right. All of them. Yeah, like look at how they communicate and what they post about. Like, and that's why I say it doesn't necessarily have to be the defining point, only because some people really don't like understand what social media can be, and it's not like they know they can be doing all those things, and they have seen that they have that potential, and they have chosen deliberately to go a different route. It just means that they might not know. And so that doesn't like mean that they aren't a solid believer. That's why you look at their actions too. But it's an extra indicator when you want to go look on their social platforms
And
see
who they follow.
and who they follow.
Oh, that will get you into some trouble.
Connor's is just all sports. Allie's like, I know what I'm getting into. A lot of yelling and a lot of bad nights.
True.
How you
A
doing,
lot of
Steelers?
We're
tough-
good right now. The Suns are the best team in the league.
A lot of
so-
tough Mondays after Sunday night football. Let me tell you.
Yeah, last year was rough. This year
Yeah.
might be rough as well.
Yeah, we won last night even without Chris Paul, so there's still potential. But legitimately, yeah, I think that's a great
Well, what
point
you're
too.
saying is great because it's just looking at the fruits. Like
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, like in every aspect.
Totally. And like I think that you can just get an idea from their social media of like, this guy really just seems like he's all about himself, and that's kind of it. But if he really doesn't like care about social media, or he's one of those weirdos that like deletes his social media because he wants to just get rid of it, I'm just kidding.
That's Connor and Christian.
I might download it again soon.
Bows his
I'm
head.
guessing
see.
it's for work, or just
I don't know. I'm thinking about it for telling people about Jesus purposes.
there you go.
Yeah.
Love it. Exactly the reason why. Like, look at guys' platforms and see what they do with that stuff. So, anyways, I think that's something that can help too. And it doesn't mean they have to be like a pastor on their platform that's posting reels of them teaching Jesus. Like, hey, 3 facts about Jesus and how he loves you.
3 facts. about Jesus.
I see
True facts.
a lot of guys that do that. And it's cool. But it can definitely be a good indicator. The other things that
Should be salty.
should
What
be
we're saying.
Yeah, it should be salty. It needs to be
Salt
the
and light.
salt.
Salty and lit.
Needs to be the salt of the earth. And if salt has lost its taste, then what good is it?
No good.
No good. Another thing too that I appreciate is like a sense of direction and asking those kind of questions. And again, I guess this all boils down to like when you're looking for these things in a guy. I said thigh.
Look for the thighs.
Looking for the thighs to
Thighs
find the
for the
right guys.
Does he have thunder thighs? If he doesn't have thunder thighs, run.
Under thighs. Under thighs.
I do have some meaty thighs, that's for sure.
Remy played soccer, you can tell.
Yeah, big soccer guy.
Big soccer.
But anyways, the ultimate premise is if you don't know what to look for in a guy, then how do you know that you'll find that person? You know, because otherwise, when it comes to this idea of like you either lengthen your patience or you compromise your standards, and what he said, don't do it. Like you're not going to know what you're compromising on because you don't know what you care enough about. And that was the mistake I think I made in my first couple of relationships is I didn't know what I was looking for, except for like, yeah, just, you know, a fun person to hang out with. And like, we get along super well. And you do that, but then you get into the relationship and you realize you're like, ooh, I don't want someone like that.
-4 out
So
of
like,
10.
yeah. So one of the things for me was like a big level of independence, of like being able to do life on their own. And because it was a sure sign that if they were super dependent still on other people and their family, then I did not want to have to be the one that now took over for that role. Mom and dad just handed over to me, and now she's just dependent on me. So like that was something that I learned. But then after those relationships, I was like, ooh, I really need to write down what I'm looking for so that I know if I've found that. And so after doing that, I was super intentional with Alyssa for the first couple of months that we knew each other. And I was asking those questions and looking for those kind of things of like, well, what does her community look like? What is she like with her family? What does her faith look like? How independent does she seem to be from her family? And all those kind of things. And so it really helped with me finding the person that I desired. And so I think the biggest takeaway from this podcast, beyond just what are some things to look for in a guy, is like just taking the time to write down what you think you desire in a guy. Because like we might have our preferences and we might have certain things that we think are good for them to have. And they're universal principles, I think. But there's also specific things that each person desires that's different from others. I think, for example, one of my friends was saying that like something that he desires is for her to be like outdoorsy, like someone that loves camping and likes to go out because he loves to go hunting, he loves to go fishing, he likes to go mountain biking, hiking, all those things. And if she's like, I hate nature. You guys ever you guys seen Parent Trap? Yeah. Remember the mom, the stepmom that comes in and like absolutely hates nature when they go camping? So yes. Like, yeah, he that's who I think of as like the mascot for a woman who hates nature.
You mean Meredith Blake?
Oh, okay. Just
that's her name, Meredith Blake.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Name drop.
Yeah. Why did you name drop?
Don't
on
call
the
her
platform,
out
bro?
like that.
It's
Yeah,
just
seriously.
funny.
A fictional character.
Gossip.
Yeah, she's the person I think of. But like for him, like that's something that was important. So it goes beyond just like has a relationship with Jesus. It's like, well, one thing I do really care about is this, and I don't want to pick someone to be in a long-term relationship with that won't want to do those things with me, or I have to fight to convince them to go do those things. And that does not make it as enjoyable. Like you want someone that naturally desires those things. And those can be preferences, but those are ultimates as far as like foundational to the relationship. Those are those extra things that you can find. And you're not going to find someone that fits every single one of those. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought Alyssa loved Marvel movies as much as I did, and she likes them, but she's not out here watching the nerd videos like I am for like Easter egg breakdowns for whatever's coming up next and trailer breakdowns. Like she doesn't do that stuff with me, and that's fine. But like knowing what you want and then figuring that out and writing it down is like such a good and healthy step to take when you're looking for a relationship, because you're going to know right away. You're like, not that guy, or like he might be a good choice for me. And then from there, kind of proceeding those steps of like taking the time to look at their actions, see what kind of fruit they bear, look at their community, look at their social media, and ultimately look at their relationship and posture towards others, and especially authority too, in so many of those aspects. But yeah, those are just a few of them that I would list that I think are super important, or just the overall mindset of like when kind of navigating this kind of stuff and looking for a guy. And
I think too, like if you do that, make that list, like share that list with the people around you too that are close and that will be honest about it, because you can make that list and like, in isolation, and it may either, have some stuff on it that's like, I don't know if you need to be looking for that stuff, or it may have like, it may be lacking a lot of things that are probably very necessary and beneficial for you. And that's another reason why community is so important. And I think we've talked about before, like being able to make like big decisions, like with other people, like godly people around you is huge, and to like make that a practice, like in your own life. And I think like one thing, like if they're not dedicated to the Lord, like how do you expect them to like be dedicated to you or to like anything else? Like if they're like not dedicated to anything in their life, like first and foremost, like to the Lord, like that should just be the biggest like red flag in the world. Like you should not expect anything less of them. Like I don't know why people are surprised when stuff like that happens. And I think like the biggest thing is just like be patient in your decision making. Like don't make rash decisions and harsh decisions. And it's okay to like be single, after college. Like
Yeah.
it is not like a death sentence. Christian's like, no.
Death sentence.
Like I think a lot of people are trying to find that perfect person when they're 18 years old, like freshman year in college. It's like there's a 99% chance nobody in that, in that age range or even close to the person you want to look for, even yourself. So like give it some time. Like you don't have to be ring by spring by your sophomore year of college,
Yeah. Don't have to fall into the peer pressure. I've also heard recently too, on the counter side of that, that like if you're like looking for this person that meets everything on your list, you're never going to find them. Like you might, but it's going to be really rare. And I was talking to a friend and he was saying that he knows people that are in their 30s, mid 30s that still aren't in a relationship because they find someone and they can't commit to them because they don't live up to every single standard that they have. So now they're in their 30s, they're 35 and they're still single because they've now overlooked. So like on the spectrum of no standards, they've put extremely high standards. And because no one can meet that, it's like, hey, they're great. They love Jesus. They do this and that. But she's just not as much into like travel as I want. And it's like, but she does everything else great. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're gonna have to compromise at some point. You're not gonna find that perfect person that does everything you desire. You might, but the time you find them, you're like 50 years old. And guess what? Over the course of the last 20, 25 years, your interests have changed as well. So like just because someone doesn't like something now doesn't mean they might not later, or it doesn't mean that just because you like something now doesn't mean you won't like that later. So like also don't play the game of looking for a perfect person and you're not willing to sacrifice on some of those secondary things that you really care about because you're just looking for a suitable partner for life to do ministry with. And if you have to just go with the boys to the beach because she doesn't want to go to the beach, oh well, you get to go hang with the boys.
The boys.
The boys. It doesn't always have to be with them for everything, and they don't have to like everything that you do, or even the same TV shows or whatever it is. Like you have to learn and have wisdom and discernment of which things you can sacrifice / compromise on, and which things are the non-negotiables. And I think figuring out the non-negotiables is the more important part. And then after that, you can have fun with those extra things. And if you find someone that loves those things, great. But also, I would also say, a lot of them will say that they like those things or that are interested in those things, and then actions over time will show that they didn't really care that much about it, but they kind of said it because it's exciting in the moment. And you're like, yeah, I like hiking, but I like hiking. I haven't gone hiking in like over a year, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, but our buddy Noah will go like every other weekend to a different mountain because he loves hiking. But if someone said like, do you like hiking? I'd be like, yeah, I like hiking. And they asked Noah the same question. Noah's going to be like, I also like hiking. But that's two different answers based off of our actions. So just because someone said they like stuff doesn't mean you should be surprised if later on they're not as interested in those things as much as you thought. So don't put so much weight on those secondary things, but put all of that weight on those non-negotiables.
Number one red flag. If Allie was a Cleveland Browns fan, we would not be here today. Let me tell you.
Why the Cleveland Browns? Are they considered the rivals of the Steelers?
First started,
Not really, because they stink for the past 30 years.
That's why they're called the Browns.
But more like the Ravens. The Ravens are actually pretty good.
I remember when
And now the
Connor, like,
Bengals.
you made me memorize. You're like, you don't have to know every. He was like, you don't
I
have
didn't
to,
make you do nothing.
No, you were like, you don't have to know every Steelers player. We got to know at least some.
Yes, exactly.
And then he made me.
Name
And then
'em
we
off.
had to watch the whole draft. I only know Ben Roethlisberger, whatever.
Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Ben.
It's a hard
He's
name.
not on the team anymore, so you don't
Yeah, he
have to know.
retired after 18 years.
You're like, I memorized that name for
Do
nothing.
that part. That's pretty good.
Big Ben. And then you
You just
got
said Big
Juju Fitz-Herbert.
Nope.
Close.
This is awesome. Please
going.
keep going.
Fitz-Sherbert.
You might not
No,
be on the
it's-
team next year
it's
either. I'll give you a
Fitz.
pass.
It's Fitz Sorbet.
You can do. You got one. Who was our defensive player of the year this year?
In general or on the Steelers?
Well, both. He's a big white
You know
guy.
both?
No,
On
I
defense.
know. Hold on.
It's the same guy.
I'll give you a
Oh,
hint.
Ben.
No,
Nope.
Ben's
I'll
on
give you a
offense.
hint. Electricity. She
She's
won't
not
get it.
His brother's on the Cardinals.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh no.
All right,
Michael
we'll
Jordan.
work on
He's
it.
a white guy. Larry
We
Fitzgerald.
might need to push back the wedding.
who's the guy on Green Bay Packers? Aaron
Aaron Rodgers?
Rodgers. That guy.
I think you guys need to do a recap because
We're gonna have to have a conversation.
Wait, what's
on the
his
way home.
name?
Brett Favre.
TJ Watt.
Oh, Watt. Got it.
Watt. I got it. I like the. I want to go back though to that Fitz jersey.
Fitz Herbert.
Fitz Herbert.
Juju Fitz-Schmert.
It's Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, yeah.
I have his jersey. Like,
Yeah. I just call him Juju. We're close.
I'm gonna cut out a little snippet of that video and just send it to him.
Juju Fitz-Herbert.
Fitz Sherbert.
There's a
We shall
terrible
name-
towel.
Yep.
I know that. I know he.
Hey, I think Allie knows more than
She
me.
knows more about the Suns, which is okay.
Yeah,
that's
that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you like watching basketball more than football.
I do because I can it's like less of a playing field.
Well, you got a couple years to
Technically,
figure it out.
it is a smaller court.
Well, it is a smaller court. Are you implying that there's less players on the field at a time?
I
On
also
the court all the
don't
time?
know what a running back does and why he's running. I don't understand
Well,
how the
it's
quarterback.
actually pretty easy.
Why do they
It's
pick
for
a
him
quarterback to be a
running.
fat guy when the fat guy can't run?
It's just Ben because he's
It's
old.
just Ben.
Ben can't run.
Yeah,
just-
no.
He's got other fat guys
they
to block
just-
him, so
Why
he's
do you think
fine.
Most of the newest like quarterbacks.
I don't
are
know
all,
what a
like,
long
those
back is.
multi-athlete.
That's not a thing.
Yeah.
A long back?
No.
Long.
Even though Josh Allen's
I
a
need
little
to
bit
leave.
bigger,
A long.
Anyways,
he's still a good
Whatever.
runner. Yeah, you got to leave on the dot. Should have been gone 3 minutes ago.
Okay.
All right. Well, we love you guys. I hope that last part was entertaining because that was really fun.
God, 3 minutes ago.
That was awesome. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Leave us a review. Like it on Spotify. Let us know how you really feel. Make sure you're checking out our growing archive of podcasts that you can check out on all of our platforms. Make sure you're following us on social media, Ask Us Why. And if you love the podcast and Ask Us Why and what we're doing, best way you can support us is head over to our shop and buy something over there. We got some really cool things coming for you guys in the future. So stay tuned, stay updated. Follow our Ask Us Where account so you can see all of that stuff. We love you guys, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
Peace out.